Good morning on the West Coast and good afternoon here on the East Coast. This is Mike Dotterer and you're on Champions on the Dot. And boy, do we have a great show for you today. It's Super Bowl day, Sunday, and we've got our special guest. He's going to be coming on in a few minutes. You know him, former Stanford Hall of Famer, All-Pro, Super Bowl champion Brian Holloway. So we'll be bringing him on board in just a few minutes. Before I say a few tributes to a couple of my friends. And I want to dedicate this show to two of my good friends, Jerry Salerno, who I met at Stanford. His mother passed away, and I want to make sure that we dedicate this show to his mother. His mother was Victoria Salerno, who I met back in the 90s, and she's just an extraordinary woman, devoted to her family. She was an amazing cook, just a brilliant mother, grandmother, wife to her wonderful husband, and she was just a kind woman, and she just recently passed away. And I just want to send my prayers and best wishes to Jerry and his family, and Leanne, his wife, and all the grandkids. And then I also want to take a moment of silence for my good friend, Samuel Lord Brookfield, who was born in 1943 in Connecticut. He's a graduate of St. Paul Academy, and Sam had a huge impact on my life. He hired me out of graduate school when I was at Columbia University. He hired me to be his right-hand person at the Business Council for the United Nations. And Sam was a Fulbright teacher, just a great mentor, taught at the Cranbrook School, and graduated from Yale University. And his lovely wife, Pauline, and their kids, the entire Brookfield family, my heart goes out to all of you. And Pauline, thank you. I know you left me a message, and I am sorry to hear about the passing. So want to dedicate this show to Victoria and to Sam. And as you can see, I'm wearing my Raider outfit with a little NFL logo. And this was our Super Bowl team in the back here. That's me right there with the circle. But I just a side note here, approximately 23 members on this picture are no longer with us. And I'd also like to dedicate this show to my former Raider teammates who helped us win the Super Bowl, get the ring, which Kansas City's going for their three-peat today. And obviously Philadelphia is going to try to stop them. And I just want to dedicate this to all my teammates and thank the Raider organization and Mr. Davis. Thank you, Mark, for all that you're doing. And I know you've got Tom Brady in your corner. And as we know, Tom Brady's going to be commentating today on Fox. So without further ado, Mr. Brian Holloway. Brian, how are you? Welcome to another Super Bowl Sunday.
You know what's exciting about this? Both you and I can go back, and it's almost hard to believe that our Super Bowl was like 39 years ago, right? And so to be able to sit there and have these conversations and literally be able to go, but that's how powerful the Super Bowl experience is. And this is something both teams experienced. They both had the greatest season of their life. And now they're competing. So both of you, just amazing year, amazing experiences. And then you're sitting there like it's really happening. And you get a chance to see, so this is what it really looks like. So this is what it feels like. But I can't understand. Here it is, 30, 40 years later, it still feels the same way. Exactly the same way. I talked to my brother, Jonathan and Karen, and we had a special time. We went to dinner, a very private dinner, very nice dinner, on the day before the families had to go to their own private hotel. So a day before the moment of sanctuary. And I still have the dinner tab, and I says, do you remember? And Jonathan said, I just can't wrap my head around that it's been 40 years because it's so present. And I get a chance to share, as you do, get to share that feeling inside, that frequency, that energy, the understanding, the awareness, the power, and the delight. It's amazing. It's amazing. Both teams experience that. You know, and I tell ball players, I said, when you go there, win or lose, it doesn't. Do not forget to celebrate the amazing year that you had. Be able to celebrate that you at the highest level, you did it, you pulled it together, you mastered a way to make the impossible happen, which you have to do, and be able to go through everything you do with your team, and you have to reconcile stuff and pull the team back together, and you'll hit all kinds of turbulence that no one could ever imagine, and yet you pull it together to play united as the team. It's amazing. It's just a fun thing to have experienced.
It truly is. And as you know, Brian, this is Super Bowl 59. And
right.
You were in Super Bowl 20.
Right.
And I was a member of the Super Bowl 18 team.
That's
and
right.
We got to go back, as you know, the first Super Bowl was back in 1967. And
right.
in that Super Bowl, you had, it wasn't a sold out stadium. It was actually the only Super Bowl that was not a sellout. And the average ticket price was $12. And it was the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Green Bay Packers, 1967. And you were 8 years old, and I was 7 years old.
That's right. Yep. And that was, you know what? You know who hit the scene real big that time? During that era is Bart Starr. I remember. And I remember getting the playing card. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is Bart Starr. So that was way back.
Yeah, but Brian, you gotta share, Ryan. Here's something that I wasn't aware of. You probably were, because not many people know that you love the game of baseball. And I just found this out yesterday. I wasn't aware of it. I should have been. But Patrick Mahomes' father, major league pitcher.
Wow. I know. And I saw some film clips of did Mahomes play some baseball in college?
Oh, he played baseball. I don't know all the details.
Yeah, I saw some of the pitching, but yeah, I am absolutely obsessed about the sport of baseball, and I joined those fans who love sport so much, but actually they weren't very good at it, and so it wasn't for me. But it is my passion. I got a house full of baseball gloves. I got a house full of baseballs, and just holding it and smelling the glove, it goes back to those days, Bob Gibson, Hank Aaron, come on. Willie McCovey, Willie Mays, Orlando Cepeda, come on. Are you kidding me? It was so exciting. And it was very rewarding for me, because something else was happening, because remember, that was back there, and we were dealing with Vietnam, and we're also dealing with the Civil Rights Movement. And so on TV, that was when the color TV just came out. Now, we didn't have one because we couldn't afford it. And I'd go over to the neighbor's house who had one, and I was allowed to go into his house and watch with the boys. They were a military family. Not everybody when you have brown skin, can you go and play at the neighbor's house? It just wasn't that way. And I sat there, and on TV, as I was watching baseball, the thing that excited me was hearing them talk about these great athletes, but also seeing that they were the same color skin as me. And that was meaningful. I took that as on notice, and I said, there is a way, there is a chance, there is a place. It is possible. And so little did I know there was some deep resolve that was operating on the inside. And if you talk to any of the ball players that are on the field today, you will hear the same sort of passionate story of that dream. Is it possible? Can I get there? And so what's happening for them is you're there, like you're there. And so that's very profound moment that each one of them makes experience. And for some, it's like we're there and let's play football. For others, it's like we're there, and it's very difficult to concentrate. You start seeing all the celebrities come in and they're waving at you. You're like, what are they waving at me for? And they know your name and you're sitting there looking at them. Whoa, I mean, Lisa Bonet called my room to wish me good luck the day before the Super Bowl. Lisa Bonet. And so, and so that was, it was amazing. Some parts of it was like, is this really happening? And so being able to sit there and focus, and you can't order any room service because you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. And you have to have security consciousness. And then you sit there and tell your family, says, wherever the best you could do, this is what time you need to be there. If you're not there at this time in line to get in the game, you're not going to get in the game. And all the other stuff that goes on, and sit there and go, let's go and put everything outside of our mind and totally focus. Okay, this is the moment. So it's fascinating. It's so energetic, and it's amazing. And then sometimes, the ball players will get so excited that they'll forget to play. They'll forget to play. Like it's just like they're in a moment. Or some ball players also talked about they got out there and all of a sudden they got tunnel vision, and all they could see was this little circle. And I'm like, well, keep looking around, and then you get in the huddle and you're just like knocking each other and talking to each other. It goes, wow, this is really happening. And you're like, shut up and pay attention. Let's run this play. So it's very, very exciting, and I want to give them all the teams on both sides. But I'll tell you, today, as much as everybody has got the pull, I got Kansas City, I got the red on because I wanted to upset the Eagles fans, because I am an Eagles fan, and I'm trying to light them up, because the greatest power there is on that field, in a loving sort of way, is revenge. And so the Eagles got that going for them, and that's a very, very powerful force. And the offensive line is got intent for blunt trauma, intent to be able to take down their rush and their blitz quickly, and to keep the ball on the ground. They do that, and then all of a sudden it's going to be a completely different game. Now, like Elway, can Mahomes score 3 touchdowns in 5 minutes? Yes. So do not leave your television, because a lot could happen in a short period of time. Don't move. Do not go anywhere. So we're going to see some interesting stuff. And you might see Kansas City coming out with the double pass and going deep on early in the series. They may throw the hook and lateral in there early in the series to sit there and go, we're going to put some shake and bake on this.
Right.
So, that high-powered stuff, or, the pass out to the receiver, and the receiver goes crossing deep to a pass to the tight end. I mean, that kind of stuff could open up. That would not be unusual for Bill Walsh to open up in the first 3 series to show those plays.
You mean Andy Reid?
No, I'm saying Bill Walsh.
Oh, Bill Walsh.
Bill Walsh. What I'm saying is that wouldn't be unusual for Bill Walsh to do that.
Oh, right.
Let's see if Andy Reid can step like that, or if Mahomes could sit there and overwrite the call that came in from Coach Reid. So that's what we did in our huddle, because we studied so much. And if you listen to Brady, he gave a short discourse on how he knew exactly what Kansas City Chiefs were going to do next. He knew the play, knew that. I mean, that's how we study at the offensive line. So we know where people are going to be, we know where we're going to move. And so that's how we were able to check off plays that the coach brought in. And we're like, no, run this one, run this one, run this one, which was very good. It was very cool. It's very cool when you can do that.
Well, you know, that's why John Madden used to say that when you build your team, you build it with the Brian Holloways, offensive
Well,
line.
and then when you make calls like this, you better be right.
Well,
You
you
better be
mentioned
right.
yesterday, Brian.
That's a stiff fine, 15 grand for breaking the play.
Brian, you mentioned yesterday, and I wasn't aware of it, the size of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line.
Yeah, they are on record. They're the biggest offensive line ever in Super Bowl. I think it averaged about 3.25. And if you're averaging 3.25, that means you got some folks up there at 375, right? So no, seriously, the tackle's a big man, right?
Now, Brian, you got to share with the fans that are listening, all the folks around the world. You got to be good friends with William the Fridge Perry. How big was William the Fridge Perry, who was on that Chicago Bears team when you helped lead the Patriots to their first Super Bowl game? What was William? How big was he, William the Fridge?
Well, William was required to be under 285 by the team, or else he would get fined. Okay, so he was being fined his entire paycheck, and so he became such a hero so quickly and a delight in the media. That's where he was making his money. And so with these media agencies and these sponsors, one of which was McDonald's, was like, look, we need you bigger. And they paid him $500,000, but he needed to be up to 400 pounds. He needed to look bigger. And so I asked Fridge, I said, Fridge, you got fined your entire salary, bro. And he said to me, he goes, bro, let me get you thinking right. I said, how were you imagining that made any sense? He said, you know what? You went to Stanford. You got too many brains. But it went like this. When McDonald's offered me $500,000 to be over 400 pounds, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to be 400 pounds. I'm going to get paid to get my money. And so he had a wonderful, delightful personality, but he was paid a lot of money to stay big, and you could not move him. He's a player that could not be moved. And if you let him get his second step down, you can't stop him. So the only thing you could do is you could just sit there and have a stalemate at the line and hope. But you got a man that can squat 1,200 pounds, bro. You know, when you got 48-inch thighs, bro, and that ain't all fat, bro. And he's a great athlete, a tremendous athlete. So, and then in high school, he was a fullback. So, and if you've ever seen him, you can't believe it, because I've got big hands, but his wrists are about this big. Let's see, how do I say? Are that big? And I was like, whoa! And then that's why they couldn't get a Super Bowl to fit his ring, get a Super Bowl to fit his finger, because it was like size. It was bigger than a quarter. You know.
Yeah, we had a guy on our team. I don't know if there you can see him, number 55. We called him, his nickname was Bub, from Penn State, Matt Millen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a ball player. What a great ball player.
And
very
Matt,
smart, very smart.
Yep.
Very
and Matt
cool.
was the kind of guy when Charlie Sumner, who was our defensive coordinator, said, okay, we want you to plug the A gap. You weren't going to move Matt. I believe he benched like 550 pounds. Matt was quite a rock.
He was a brick wall. He was a brick, you know. So when you're coming after, if you're going to hit him, you got to bring it all. And he's not going to try to dip out of the way. He's going to take that on. But, he's always played that way. That's Raider strong.
And there's another Super Bowl, Mr. Fox himself, Howie Long, number 75.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a great, successful career he's had. He absolutely deserves it, and of course he's the charm of every woman in the world. But he is articulate. He's outstanding in front of the camera. The camera likes him, and a great ball player. And boy, did he study, and he practiced his art. I mean, he spent a lot of time in the off season learning how to move differently and how to be efficient and how to have balance and how to generate explosiveness and to get the ball players that he plays against off balance. Now, here's why. Howie played at 255, but that's tiny. And so a big man who's weighing 3 1/4, you could sling that around. That's a tinker toy. But the game he played was to get you so off balance that, and then he would get tremendous advantage. Very smart, very, very smart.
Right now, Brian, there's a guy over here. You can see him. He's right above Mark Wilson, and that's Earl Leggett. And Earl was Howie Long's coach, along with Lyle Alzado. And when Howie got inducted to the Hall of Fame, the person that gave him his introduction speech was Earl Leggett, and he credits Earl. As you know, coaching is so important. Earl probably Earl was a great offensive line coach, or defensive line coach, I should say.
It was great, and they had a great relationship, and that's going to show up today during the Super Bowl. What you're going to see even more is the strength of the relationships on the sideline. And so a lot's going to happen. You've got to remember, it is completely possible that one team come out there and show stuff they've never, ever seen before. And so there's tremendous amount of intelligence that have to shift very fast. And also ball players, if they see something very unusual in a ball player they've been studying, right? So they see an unusual amount of tape on their ankle. Oh, that's a sign. Okay, that's information. If they see someone whose shoulder pads is rising up a little higher, meaning that some part of their shoulder's been taped up, that's information. That's a weakness. And so all that stuff is part of what's happening on the first couple of series while the teams are sitting there analyzing the data and intelligence to see what's really going on. And so that's the fun part, And then the ball players, some of them, behind the scenes, you think about it, it's the Super Bowl. Some ball players get so excited, that they overeat, so they're going, oh my gosh, I just overate for the Super Bowl. And then there's ball players that go, I can't eat, but I need to eat. And I was one of those. I had to force myself. My body is shut down. My body was fight. And so I wasn't hungry. And also I wasn't thirsty, but I had to force drink and get the forced nutrients in to be able to go out there and play. I rarely had more than an egg and a half and a piece of toast on game day. And now when you have a game day game starts at 6:30, it throws you off quite a bit. That threw me off quite a bit because, you've got to be able to eat, and an egg and a piece of toast isn't enough. You got to have food in there. So that's why the smoothies have played such a big deal, because those you can just slurp down.
Right.
And they're made according to your body requirements. So they have all the data analytics and the molecular stuff all figured out. So it's much different now.
Well, you know about how important it is for quarterbacks to make sure that they're getting their proper hydration, water, and what they're eating, because if they're not feeling good, whether it's Jalen Hurst or it's Patrick Mahomes or it's in your case, you had an experience about how critical it is for the quarterback to be feeling good.
Yeah, Tony Easton caught the flu for the Super Bowl. Now, some people said, was it the flu really, or was it something else? And so, you never know. It could it easily have been something as simple as, well, a nervous stomach? Yes. Could it have been something that might have somehow ended up in the water or the food that he ordered? Possibly, but not likely. But does that happen? Well, yes. Could it be as simple as something like 2 things of X-Lax that was put in his meal? That would do it. That would do it.
No one would do something like that, would they?
Actually,
come on, that can't happen.
Actually, go study it. go back to the Lombardi days, you'll read some paperwork on that, which is why all the teams always bring their own water and their own food because you just can't, you don't know, and you can't pick up any bottle of water and say, well, no, that's mine. You don't drink any bottle that is not handed to you. That it must be handed to you by who you're used to getting the water from.
And we know it's really important to get into bed for bed check. You do not want to go AOL, right?
You know, there's some ball players, I don't get it. I forget who said this. There's some ball players that says, I don't feel right unless, I know one of them, Ted Hendricks. He goes, I don't feel right unless I've been out. I got to go out,
There's Ted right there.
Yep. And
he's got 3 of these, 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah. There's a lot of players that they go, I just need to go. Now, Raiders would do that more than anyone else that I know of. But there's some ball players that go, I just don't feel right. I got to feel loose. I can't be all tight. And they go out and party and celebrate till 3 a.m. And they come back and they get, 4 hours of sleep, which is all they need. And they're on the field with this exuberance of being unstoppable. Now, that's something that's hard to imagine for any offensive line. We got too much work to do. We got too much thinking to do. But in those positions of speed and those folks that catch footballs, they're just wired differently.
Well, I think in the first Super Bowl, the MVP for the first Super Bowl was the wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. And I think he spent the whole night before the Super Bowl out carousing. That was
I don't know how. I just don't know how they do that. But what you'll see today, because of the security that they have, everything that happens with the team now downstairs in the lobby, even though there's security, there's a lot of people. Then you go upstairs to the next level, and the next level is they'll have meeting rooms, and that's where a lot of this stuff will really happen. There'll be security at the top, and there'll be 4 security guards in the hallway. And then there'll be a place for the family up until yesterday. And then after that, the family goes to their own hotel that is across the street, that's not in the same building. And then all of a sudden, that's when you become, locked in. And
well, by the way, I just looked it up. Boyd Dowler. He wasn't. I don't even think he was scheduled to play. And he played, and he was the MVP of that first Super Bowl. And he said that he went out on the town. And we do know there are stories about other, players that.
There's some ball players that know this is their last game.
Right.
Okay. And there's some ball players that know that they're going to get cut. And so, and they know that they're likely are not going to play. Maybe they'll come and play 10 plays in the game. That's it. And so their view of this is completely different. So each ball player has a completely different view, and then also those ball players who deal with the family who's like, well, I need to have special dresses, and I need to have this, and I need the fashion. And all of a sudden you're having to, put up 25, 50 grand for your family to Super Bowl up. And you're like, how did this happen? There's some ball players. No. What? There's some ball players that spent all their Super Bowl money before the game.
Right.
They spent it because of
their family.
I mean, they weren't
got their family and friends, right?
They didn't know about all that side of this,
Well, that's the I call it the MC Hammer effect. MC Hammer, who he took care of all his friends, and then he ended up. What happened?
So that's something that is a thing, and I had never seen that before.
Yeah.
But and it's really is.
I looked up. I asked my trusty Chat GPT. I asked what were some notable Super Bowls, and they mentioned obviously the first Super Bowl, and then they mentioned the Blackout Bowl 2013 when the Harbaughs were facing one another, and
Yeah.
and then
But
they had
by the
then they,
way, that
what?
that didn't happen. That was,
Oh, that didn't. Yeah, tell us, share a story, your perspective on the blackout ball.
well, it's not perspective. I know what happened. I mean, what they're saying is that the power company, there was some disconnect with the lighting or energy into it. Well, the company that they're talking about was one of my clients. Okay, I know the security protocol, and I know the security backup. It's not possible. It's not possible. And so that was something that was thoughtfully staged, allegedly, because I want to say Harbaugh, but the Ravens were so far ahead. They were up 23 or something, and then the game was getting not interesting, and they were losing views in front of the TV, which means the people that own the rights to it are getting paid less for the commercials. That's a problem. So by creating some hysteria, which is the greatest way to get people to spike watching TV and therefore watch the commercials, now you got 75 million people watching the commercials versus 200,000. And that's where they get their lunch money from. So,
Hey, speaking of commercials, could you share with, because we're going to be going live at 6:30.
well, I heard, I heard about, we're going to have 4 commercials that were paid for by Mr. Musk. And what an exciting, interesting perspective that's going to be because of all the work that he's done, particularly now, as he's
Hey,
been such a vital part of the new presidential office.
hey, Brian, look who says it's her new favorite show.
Hello, there she is. Hi, Corey. Good to see you.
Corey is in New Orleans. That's her hometown.
Yes,
And
sir.
I think Corey was at the Lee Steinberg party yesterday.
Lee Steinberg, that's a great party. I went to that a couple of times, and it was good seeing some old friends. I've known Lee, oh heavens, can you believe 50 years? No, 45 years I've known Lee.
And if anybody doesn't know, Lee Steinberg, the movie Jerry Maguire, Lee was the agent that advised the producer and the director how an agent behaves. So that movie Jerry Maguire, Lee was involved in that, and Lee's been an agent,
a super agent, been a super
yep.
agent from a long time, all the
Yep.
way back to the 80s.
Well, his first client was the quarterback from Cal who played for the Falcons. The quarterback remember Cal, you played against him.
Well, I do know Gordon King signed with him.
No. Yeah, but the quarterback from UC Berkeley that was first round pick by the Falcons back in the late 70s. That was his first client, and now he's represented Troy Aikman,
A lot of ball players,
a lot of the great quarterbacks, and now he represents Patrick Mahomes.
I didn't know he was a Mahomes agent.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's Mahomes picked a great one.
So I got to ask you, President Trump's going to be there, and sure. I'm certain that the commissioner will be sitting right next to him, right?
Actually, no.
No?
The commissioner of
the NFL?
No.
He's not going to be sitting next to the president?
No.
Okay, well
no.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it before
no. There's going to be the hyper security that is going to be around will be unlike any other security. It will be something else.
Oh, look at that! Corey said that Lee Steinberg kicked off his new Brain Health Foundation last night.
Well, very good. I know that I'll be a part of that because when I went out for my brain study at the Amen Clinic, which was down was it in Orange County? It might have been, but I got a chance to see him when I was down there. Plus, I got a chance to see him at the Super Bowl that was in Miami a few years back. We had a chance to catch up. So he's a great man.
Yeah, there's a lot of research, Brian, that going on with brain condition, and I want to again a shout out to Mr. Davis with the Raiders for being the only NFL team that we know of that does a health weekend, a Raider wellness weekend that you and I attended last year. That was just fantastic. And do you have any things to say about players out there, whether they're current players or retired, about brain health? Brian?
Well, I think going into the Super Bowl, right? All the ball players who are out there on the field. Another thing that is a consideration that people don't know is these guys now have played 4 additional football games, some 3. And so that does make a difference because now you've taken even more hits to the body, down to every joint, shoulder, knee, back, elbow, ankles, and of course the, brain trauma that happens. And so that's all part of the Super Bowl that people may not even consider. And there's some who've had very difficult times, but won't report it. I remember John Hanna was disclosed, I think, 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. At some point, he had to come out of the game because of a neck injury. Well, we found out his neck was broken. And during the Super Bowl, he was advised not to play. And I told him, I said, John, don't do it, bro. And he was like, and I mentioned this before, he said, could you imagine how great to end a career getting hit and dying on the 50-yard line? That'd be amazing. I said, John, you're crazy. Don't be talking like that, man. Don't be talking. So I think that's something that everyone is concerned about. And now they have some of the best ways to measure and to assess and to care for and treat. And the acceleration of that kind of studies is happening so fast that we're learning so much, and which is really great because the people that need to reach more than anything else are youth. So, and football is dangerous, of course, but that's just 1,200 people. When you're talking about a high school football, you're talking about hundreds of thousands. And you're talking about D1, and you're talking about soccer. And one of the biggest is women's soccer.
Yeah.
And they have an organization that's called Paint Concussion that have stepped up and said, we need to study how well we take care of our students and our athletes as well. And that organization is specifically targeted toward the women's sports and their concussion, which is absolutely necessary as well. Absolutely necessary. So, yeah.
Well, Brian, we've been chitter-chatting for about almost 40 minutes. And I know people out there are thinking, gosh, who's Brian think is going to win today? And I know you're wearing your Kansas City red, and I've got to go. I'm dreaming that the Raiders are there, but they're not really there. But
I'm wearing my red to fire up the green, man.
So, Brian, unless you want me to, you can ask me any questions, but if you don't have any questions for me, we're going to be back on at 6:30, and we're going to be watching the game, just like Peyton Manning and his brother Eli, but you're going to hear it from 2 Stanford Cardinal perspectives. So we're going to be watching the game at 6:30, so you can join us. So, Brian, unless you have any questions for me, as you know, Champions OnTheDot.
Yeah, I do.
You have questions for me?
Of course I do.
All right.
So here you are on Super Bowl day, right? Okay, go back and you can remember that day very well. Okay, what was going on inside you?
Well, I remember what was exciting is there was a famous woman who they called her Miss Hollywood, and her name was Rona Barrett. And Rona Barrett, she had never been to a Super Bowl, I don't believe, but she'd met all the everyone in Hollywood, and we were the Los Angeles Raiders at the time. We weren't the Las Vegas Raiders or the Oakland Raiders. And Rona wanted to come to the Super Bowl, so I said, and Mr. Davis allowed us to take 4 family members. I think it was 4. So I put Rona. I said, Rona, you want to go? So she came to the Super Bowl, and I was on injury reserve, which was very disheartening for me because I, wanted to play, but I practiced and, I was part of the team, but I wasn't in that game, but I was on the team. But I remember.
You know how real world is. There could have been something happen, snap, crackle, and pop on the field, and then all of a sudden they go, get in there.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Go get dressed.
Yeah, well, but the bottom line is what it taught me, being part of the Raider organization. What I loved about Mr. Davis, and then there's Mr. Davis 1, who's Mr. Al Davis, and there's Mr. Davis 2, who's Mr. Mark Davis. But Mr. Davis 1, and I'm sure Mr. Davis 2, they understand that it's a team effort, and everyone, in order to get to that level, Brian, for you and your team to be the first Patriots team to get to the Super Bowl, that's phenomenal. I mean, you basically led the way, in my opinion, for Tom Brady and company.
You got to kick the door in. Once
you've
done it once, it's easy because the organization now has organizational knowledge, organizational intelligence on everything that comes along the way, which allows you to prepare completely differently. Yes.
But, you look at a team like the Buffalo Bills. I mean, I just, there's teams out there, the Bills, the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Seattle Seahawks. There's a number of teams that have never won a Super Bowl.
Bro, the Bills going 4 in a row to the Super Bowl. That's an astonishing achievement.
Is
astonishing. As people, I said, it's not just the team that wins.
Right.
There's 2 teams that had incredible years. And so there's no taking anything away because there's no team that will ever go 4 times and not win, but go to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row. Come on, bro.
Well, you know what?
On.
I got to ask you, that's a good segue. That's a good segue, Brian, because this is the 3rd time that the Kansas City Chiefs have been in the third. This is their, well, actually, is this their 2nd in a row? Yeah, I think it's their 2nd in a row. Let's just see here. I want to make sure. Let me just make sure, because the Chiefs were there obviously last year. They won. They beat the last year. Who did they beat? They beat the 49ers last year, right? And then the year before, they beat the Eagles. And then the year before, they weren't in it. It was the Rams and the Bengals. And then the year before that, the Chiefs were again in it. They beat actually Tampa Bay that was Tom Brady's 7th Super Bowl. Tampa Bay beat Kansas City. And then the year before that, Kansas City was there. So Kansas City in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Super Bowls have been there 4 times. But you're absolutely right. This is their 3rd time in a row. This is their 3rd Super Bowl. They would have to go again next year to tie the Bills. But in this case, it would be, if they win today and if they go again tomorrow, that's a 4-peat. So, Brian, let's talk about, and I want to get back to you because you get the last word. You get the last word.
The league in 11 Super Bowl appearances, bro.
Who's that?
The Patriots.
Oh, I know.
11.
Yep.
11 Super Bowl appearances, bro. 11.
Wow. You sure that's the number 11?
Yep.
Wow. Yep. I wonder if that.
And second place is there are 3 teams that have done 8. Okay. So 11, bro. Okay, quit talking about this 3 little teams.
Well, the Raiders have done. The Raiders, I believe, is 5.
don't quit talking about this
I think
little,
it's 5.
if they could go and get a three-peat, a three-peat, a little three-peat, a three.
It's never been done. It's never been done before.
11.
I know, but okay.
11,
All right.
bro.
Well, I'm just saying if the Chiefs win today, which by the way, I've been pulling for the Raiders, but I knew that they were out of it. I said, hey, the Chiefs. I said many months ago, Chiefs are going to win it. But so I'm going to, unless you have any other insightful questions for me, I'm going to let you have the last word to talk about the analysis of this game. I'm saying that the Chiefs are going to win, even though I'd love Barkley, who's a fellow running back, who this might be his only shot, because as you know, Brian, running backs don't play as long as quarterbacks and sometimes offensive line. And this might be the great running back, Mr. Barkley, his last shot. So I'd love to see him get a Super Bowl ring, but I've been picking the Chiefs for months, and I'm going to stop and I'm going to let you have the last word, and then we'll be back on at 6:30.
It's like this. For performance and execution, you got the big men up front. The advantage is absolutely with the Eagles. Okay. And that advantage is power. And the advantage could carry the ball and hold it for 48 minutes during the game, which leaves only 11 minutes for Kansas City to rock and roll. But there is that issue. I mean, Mahomes is like Elway. You could score 3 touchdowns in 5 minutes. So it doesn't matter how far you get ahead, because Mahomes can strike so fast. That's what makes this game incredibly exciting. So I would not be surprised if the Eagles dominate the whole game and Kansas City can be beat into be playing sloppy, but they can still win. And that will be interesting to see. Absolutely. You're going to see an amazing game today. I can't hear you. Your sound's off. I can't hear you.
Brian, we'll be back on at 6:30 to do the play-by-play, and thank you again. We're making this a tradition. Brian Holloway, Champions on the Dot, every Super Bowl Sunday.
Okay, well, if I'm not there, it means there's something rolled up, and all of a sudden I'm getting got wilded out about this Super Bowl. So I should be there. But
love you, Brian.
But you never know. All right, we'll see you, buddy.
See you, man.
All right, bye.